Well, hello, and thank you all for being here on this drizzly Saturday morning. My name is Terry Chidgey, and I'm running for single-member District 6, which includes all of Reagan High School and a small portion of Johnson High School. I am a product of Northeast, as is my husband. Our adult daughter, graduated from Churchill High School, and our son graduated from Reagan. I have a strong passion and commitment to this district and to public schools. My background is in education. I started as a student teacher in Northeast ISD and taught for 9 years in first, second, and third grades. I then went on to be an assistant principal and a principal. The just greatest honor that I was given in Northeast was to open 2 Northeast schools. Not many principals get to do that. When Stone Oak Elementary opened, we were the only school in the Reagan area. And so I got to open that school, and it was such an honor. I was there 13 years and got to know that community, got to know those children. Many of them are grown now. I knocked on a door the other day, and one of my students came to the door, 29 years old. So that was exciting. I then went on from Tuscany Heights and went to central office. At that time, I was the executive director for school improvement and curriculum. And so I was over reading, writing, math, science, social studies, bilingual education, libraries, and so much more. I also, for performance and planning, did the staffing for the district. I would appreciate your vote, and I'll turn it over to my opponent at this time.
My name is Steve Hillard. I'm currently trustee representing the Reagan district, running for re-election. My focus is on maximizing every child's God-given potential. Of course, listening and valuing teacher input, particularly the teachers in the classroom, so that they can love their job and reducing admin burdens. Of course, respecting parental rights and listening to them. And then ultimately, our job as the independent informed oversight as trustee is accountability and transparency to taxpayers. Because about 65% of the taxpayers do not have a school-age child. So that's important. A little bit about me, product of this district as well. Windcrest, Ed White, Roosevelt. My wife's also a product of this district, as are all of our siblings. Loved it. Went to the Air Force Academy, 20-year combat veteran, pilot, commander, both at the squadron and deputy group level. And all those skills I learned throughout my Air Force career and leadership translate to a trustee. I have a proven track record. You can go to my website, stevefortrustee.com, and you can see all of the performance tab, what's going on. Ultimately, in the last 3 years, I've helped as part of the board, making sure we're continually complying with the law, listening to parents. We've gotten much better at getting parent surveys and input, and we're seeing the results of those things. And simply put, I've got the skills and need as a trustee, and I've demonstrated budget, policy, legal, compassion, understanding, and ultimately the integrity and courage to make principled decision making. It's what I've demonstrated and what I'll continue to do. I'm asking for your vote on May 4th. This district is phenomenal, and quite frankly, the reason my wife and I chose, when I retired from the Air Force, we chose Northeast. We looked north, we looked south, we looked west. We chose to come back home to Northeast because of the great education both my wife and I received, and all of our family members. We believe in it. We do so many things well in this district, not only academically speaking, but the fine arts, athletics, all the extracurriculars. I've had parents talk to me that said, well, I'm gonna go to charter, but they don't have choir, they don't have Latin club. We offer so many things to make the whole child, provide the well-rounded, and sometimes that event is what keeps the kid in school, because ultimately it's about academics. But we do so many things well. There's always room for improvement. That's the continuous process improvement. Part of leadership is recognizing the areas you're doing well and continuing to do those well, highlight them, and areas that need improvement, identify those challenges, make a plan, communicate it clearly to all the stakeholders, and then move forward. I could go on and on. I was just this morning over at middle school regional choir, and all of the parent volunteers, the choir teachers, everybody that's helping these kids have an opportunity to perform is just one of many examples. Saw kids out there on the athletic field. This is a wonderful district, so many opportunities. We have great parent support, great teachers and staff. They're phenomenal. They love their jobs and pour so much into the kids. And and the list goes on and on. So I wish there was more time to really go on, but I also recognize that we could sit here and list the laundry list. But we have a wonderful district with great opportunities for every family to decide what's best for the kids. Oh, and one other thing I will mention, of course, our magnet program. That's something that makes us unique. We are a school choice district. I know many people in our SMD that literally either go over to Roosevelt, down to Lee, Madison, the different magnet programs, because that's what's best fit for their child. And so we offer all those opportunities that you can't find everywhere else. Thank you.
I agree. 2 minutes is certainly not enough. We are a destination district. People shop for schools and they land here, and that's one of the reasons I'm running for board, is that I just want to keep that great community going. When you see the number of students we have, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a small community, a small town. We have valuable teachers, quality staff, and the parents are so involved in everything. When you go on field trips, you see students. When you go to performances, you see parents, and the parents are there at every event. They're so welcomed in. I, too, am so proud of the choice that we have. When they say, we need choice, you have choice in Northeast ISD. We have magnets that provide programs for students that aren't college-bound. Kids can go and learn about HVAC, or they can learn about plumbing and carpentry. We have NEISD. We have so much choice for college-bound students, for ROTC students, and for our students that want to go into some type of a trade. So that makes me so much, that gives me so much pleasure to talk to students that say, I don't want to go to college. Then we have, what are your interests? We have so many diverse students' needs, and we work hard in Northeast to meet all students' needs. I'm really proud of that, and I'm really proud of the schools and the parents and educators that work together. I think we're a team, I think we're a family, and I'm very, very proud of that. So I'm glad you asked about the curriculum. Curriculum is set. They supply the TEKs that are required for our teachers to teach. It is not the school board's job to write curriculum. That is given to our district, to our teachers by TEA. And in saying that, I do think SHAC is a very important component of decision making. They take those TEKs and look to see what resources best will teach those, and then they make recommendations for the board. I do think the SHAC committee, while very valuable, I like that it has representation of parents. It's what I believe in as far as coming together to make decisions. There are parents, there are community and teachers on that committee. That's how decisions should be made. However, I think they're overreaching somewhat right now in that they are rewording some of the curriculum, some of the TEKs, and I struggle with that. I think that's a problem. That doesn't mean to say I don't support the SHAC committee, because I do think it's a very valuable committee.
A slight nuance there. The board ultimately has to approve the curriculum. The TEKs indeed do come from there, and there are different publishers, but ultimately the board is responsible for that. Actually, we have that coming up here, I believe with the science months coming up here at the next board meeting. So we actually approve the curriculum because there's multiple publishers, and then the goal is to meet 100% of the TEKs. Yes, the SHAC is absolutely viable. It's actually required by law 28.004. So when it comes to, there's a couple different areas. I won't go into the details of that. Anyone go look in TEC 28004, and it lists the responsibilities of the SHAC and the requirements of the SHAC. It's important. I'm proud of the work I've done, actually, because when I got on the board, the SHAC was closed. There was no bylaws. They'd been disappeared in 2017. It was mainly, the representation was not truly all 7 SMDs. It took a lot of work. We worked through it as a board. We now have a BDF local policy that guides the SHAC, as well as the bylaws that have been reinstated to give them clear guidance on roles and responsibilities. They make recommendations, the board ultimately decides. So, and as far as rewording, I think you're talking about the SHAC, and someone said they were not rewording TEKs. They were looking at some of the curriculum content, and they wanted to make sure it was legally compliant, but nothing beyond that. They made the recommendation of all the community, all 7 SMDs were represented, full shack by a large majority approved the changes. The board had a discussion. We made the final decisions based on that. So it is very important that we listen. We're supposed to rep community values. That is literally what the shack does. It's much more transparent, very open now, which is what I'm proud of the work that I've helped facilitate to get that. We're getting a lot of different inputs, which is important because we are a very diverse district. And what may make sense up in the Red cluster may not make sense in the Roseville cluster or down in Lee. And so it's important we hear from all members of the community so that everybody hears that. But yes, we, the board, have that authority at the end of the day in compliance with the law, of course. And we need to make sure we make good decisions and listening to all the stakeholders. Don't forget the teachers. Their input's very valuable when it comes to that, too. We've got to balance out what's going to be best. Thank you. When we talk about special interest groups or censorship, first off, our #1 goal is to protect the children and educate the children. Clear cut. So that has to be we have to have a very clear guiding moral compass and responsibility that's entrusted to us under the law, particularly Chapter 4 of the Education Code. We have to respect the parent rights to choose for their kids, and we talked about parents getting to see curriculum, understanding it, so there should be no problem there. Other parent groups don't have the right to force their viewpoints on any individual parent or vice versa. We have to respect each of the parents to make the choice that's appropriate for their family within the scope of the law, of course. There are some stuff that is compulsory, but other stuff that is optional, they get to decide. Of course, it needs to be in compliance with the law. That's very clear when people talk about censorship. I will say this, silencing is not good. I'm a big fan of diversity of thought. We should be able to have a conversation, and while we may disagree on a particular subject matter, we should do it respectfully, and we can agree to disagree. But it doesn't mean that one person is necessarily right or wrong per se. We have different viewpoints. But silencing is bad. Debate is good. The problem we get is debates now have not turned into debating the ideas. We've started debating individuals and smearing them. I've dealt with a fair amount of that myself, quite frankly. And that's okay. I'm standing on principle and what I believe is right. I'm all for that. Logic, reason, truth always come in. Special interest groups, there's always special interest groups on both sides, or sometimes multiple sides of an issue. We need to, as trustees, make clear decision-making based on logic, reason, the law, respecting parents' rights, valuing teachers' input. We have to be very clear on all of this. So when sometimes people get into this special interest groups, which special interest group, which conversation, because this is a very nebulous question, quite frankly. It goes back to your decision-making and that principal decision-making process, very clear and being consistent and communicating with everybody. Even if you disagree with them, say, I have a different viewpoint. Thank you.
So first, I would listen. I think it's important to hear all sides, and I think I like what you said about listen respectfully and collaboratively. However, I do think special interest groups are playing a big part in some decision making that takes place in schools, and I think in our public schools, I just don't think there is a place for 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 people to come in and make decisions for an entire library or an entire subject content. I do think parents have the right to say, I don't want my child to read that book, or I don't want my child to talk to have that that aspect of the sex ed, there are modules and so forth. But I don't think they should be allowed to make that decision for the entire library or the entire curriculum. I think it's important that parents have rights, but I also think it is important that our kids are thinkers and problem solvers and are able to study and learn and read history, and I believe that they should have access to a full spectrum of library books and not censored library books. So I am opposed to as much censorship, not all. There is a good, strong procedure that we have in place in Northeast, actually in the state of Texas, to look at library books with a committee to say, looking at this rubric, is this appropriate at this grade level? Do we need to move it to another grade level? Is it not appropriate at all? And it's worked for many, many years. I think we should continue to use that procedure.